brother.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Listen, today we're going to talk about, I think, the lifeblood of any business. And I find that to be two things. I find that if you have great service, that's number one for me. You got to have great service. But number two is you got to have a budget. If you don't know where you're going and what you're going to be doing, you will at some point flounder. You just don't know where you're going to go. You don't know what you're spending. You don't know how much money you have, et cetera, et cetera. So and what a budget does is really what I call a budget is your plan, right? So let's start with that. So first step is, and I used to love this because I called it budget season, right? So I would say to folks, okay, man, getting ready for budget season. So what do you think that means? Anybody in the group, what do you think budget season means?
Tax season.
Tax season, yeah. Well, let me ask a better question first. When do you think budget season is?
The beginning of the year.
Okay, beginning of the year. Anybody else?
Anytime you think you might need to make a change.
Anytime you might make a change. Yeah, budget season, if you think about it, never ends. But the planning session for your budget season is really right before the fourth quarter. In the business that I was in, by October 1st, we were finished with our budgeting. We were finishing up that year that we were in and had already set up the next year. And the reason for that is, if you start something in the fourth quarter, it allows you to adjust for the fourth quarter, which then gives you a better jump into the next year, right? Because if you wait till the first of the year, you're already behind, right? Because it's January and you're starting to do your budget, and then all of a sudden January's over. And you want to be able to say to yourself, okay, so what do I got to do in November and December that's going to help me get through especially in this business, into January on through the year. So that's why I always tell people, really the budget season I think for realtors is, you want to start that process in either late September or early October at max. Okay. So let's just say it's October and it's budget season and we need to get ready to start doing budget. Anybody want to guess the next process? Anybody have an idea? Just throw it out. Doesn't matter right or wrong. Okay. You want to plan your year, right? So what am I going to do during the year? And in real estate, what is that? If we're going to plan the next year, what are we planning for? Anybody guess? Melissa?
Maybe like marketing, just whatever your lead gen sources are, what those costs might be, or office fees, those types of things. And
so if this was your first year, you would say to yourself, and Melissa's right on, because those things add to this, right? How many sites do I want to do this year? How many buyers and listings do I want to take and close, right? So if you're new, you might have done your homework by asking people, get on a call like this and say, hey, Sherry, how did you do your first year? Hey, Zach, how did you do your first year? Hey, Melissa, how did you do your first year? Hey, Danielle, how did you do your first year, right? And why are you doing that? So you can gather information because it's new for you, so that you can then make I call it an educated guess on what you think you're going to get accomplished. And what's another question you could ask Melissa? Anybody? So Melissa, hey, I got a question for you. Hey, how many deals did you do last year? Like both listings and buyers, how many did you do? And let's just role play this out, Melissa, say anything.
10.
10, okay. And so if you didn't mind, and I know I'm being a little nosy here, what was your best source for getting those 10?
Open houses.
Okay, great. All right, open houses. Hey, I appreciate it very much. So then I go to Sherry and I go, hey, Sherry, how many deals did you do last year? Like buyers and listings and closings on buyers and sellers.
8.
8? And if you don't mind, I know I'm being nosy, but I'm just trying to get my act together for next year. What was your number one lead source for that?
Referrals.
Okay, great. So now I already have 2 things that work for other people, right? And I'm going to put that down on a piece of paper for myself because I'm going to study that, right? So when I get ready to start my budget season, I'm going to sit down and say to myself, okay, so what am I going to do? What's Harry going to do? Right? What am I going to be able to accomplish? And here's what I tell people. I used to love this. Somebody would come into my office and they'd have this budget thing that was just unbelievable. And I'd say, wow, how'd you come up with those numbers? And they'd hem and haw for a little bit. And pretty soon it would come out, well, I figured that's what you wanted. It's not what I wanted, right? And your business isn't anything other than your business. So it's what do you think you can accomplish? Lucas Sheridan, who's the regional guy, was on a call a couple weeks ago. Bruce was on the call as well. And he wanted to know why the projected numbers that people were giving weren't coming true. And I almost laughed. And so I got on, and I know I shouldn't have, but I did. I got on and I said, that's because they told you what you wanted to hear. Even though they knew it was unrealistic, they told you what you wanted to hear, right? Don't do that. Be realistic with yourself. Sit down, put together the plan, says, I'm going to do 5 of these and 5 of these, right? Okay. And then I want you to take a couple hours and don't do anything. And I want you to come back to it and say, okay, I said I was going to do 5 and 5. Okay. And you've thought about it and you said, I can do 5 and 5. Now we're going to go into what Melissa talked about. What marketing things do I need to do? What lead generation things do I need to do so that I can get that 5 and 5, right? Now we're going to start talking about your expenses and your revenue and do all that, right? So now you're going to take a piece of paper and say, I'm going to do 5 buyers. Where am I going to get them from? Well, I really like that open house that Melissa talked about. So I'm going to write open houses down. And then I'm going to go and I want to do events because I heard from Caleb that, events are great. I want to do events because I like events. Remember, you got to do things that you like to do. Because if you try to do something that somebody else is doing, it might be what they like to do, but it might not fit your sort of style. And now you're in trouble. You've got to do those things that you know you can do and do well. So, okay, so now you've written out your plan and so you say to yourself, okay, I'm gonna do direct marketing and I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. Take a day, take another day, put it down. These are the things I put on a piece of paper.
Harry,
put it down and what? Yes.
Harry, watch the waiting room. I got people texting me saying they're trying to get in.
I'm the host now. Sorry. Yep, I got one. Patrick,
Okay, cool.
he's in. Thank you. I'll check that from now on. Didn't see it. So I want you to put it away for a day. Because as you were planning it, everything was fantastic, right? But you need to take a step back for a day. Take a step back the next day, you get it all out and you say to yourself, I can do that. I can do that. Check off, check off, check off. Check. Okay, I can do those things. Now, some of those marketing things we want to put dollars to, right? We're not doing the budget yet. We're thinking of our plan and how much it's going to cost us and what we're going to get accomplished by doing it. So let's say you put direct mail down and you're going to get 2 deals off of direct mail. Do your homework. What's direct mail going to cost you? What's the odds? Have people used it? Ask around. Hey, Brady, this is Harry. Hey, I got a question. Have you used direct mail? Oh, you have? Cool. And what was did you know what you got out of it? How much you spent? You want to be able to have as much informed information as you can. So when you put that budget together, it's realistic. Gets back to that word, realistic, right? I worked with an agent in Loveland and she had done, she spends $400 for this direct mail in only a specific area. And she had done it 3 times, spent $1,200. She got 1 deal out of it. The deal was worth almost $15,000. Was that a good investment, anybody?
Yeah.
Yeah, great investment. So would you want to try it again next year?
Yep.
Yep. Would you add 1 to it? I'd probably at least add 2, because at the end of the day, I made $15,000. And if I spend another $1,800 or, $1,800 more, I still made money off that direct mail. And you'll find out if it's doable the next year. If you keep getting that, right? Could you keep expanding that slowly? Don't get crazy, but you could expand it slowly because you still have money that you've made off that deal, and see if you can continue to get 1 or 2 more, right? So that'll build out years. Some people will go crazy and want to spend $5,000. Somebody at the office wanted to spend $5,000 on a magazine, and I begged them not to. I know more about print than they ever thought of knowing, and it was a bad investment. And when I say bad, bad. Zero, you're not going to get anything out of it. If you think you are, you're nuts. What do you think they got out of it? Zero. Got zero out of it and spent $5,000. I felt terrible for them, but I try to tell them, you gotta weigh each one of these things. And if you don't have the information, you go out and find it, because you don't want to spend money you don't need to spend money on. Remember, you want to return on all your investments, right? If I'm going to spend X, I want to make Y. If I'm going to do this, I want to get this out of it. That's in general. Now, if Melissa says, I want to farm my neighborhood and I want them to know it's me, she might put some money aside for branding. That's different. But at the end of the day, branding will pay off, right? That's money you're going to invest in your business so that it will pay off. You know, a lot of people that get into a new business, I have friends that just bought a Dickey's barbecue, right? And my thing to them was, you know, do some branding, let them know you're there, and give a discount for right now. You don't have to always do it. Put it in a coupon that says, come try us for the first time. And here's a, first time buyers, whatever, because that was a branding thing that they were trying to get across. Once they're established, they probably don't need to do that. That's the decision they can make later. All right. So really what I call that is justifying your expenses. So when we put that on that budget, we've justified that expense and we're comfortable with that expense. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, so I'm going to try to see if I can bring it up, share my screen. I got to go get it. Files. Oh, Harry, please. Hold on, folks. Give me a second, folks. I'm bringing it up. If it's going to let me. Oh, gosh. Let's see here. Got to be somewhere. Okay, hold on, folks. I'm still here, believe it or not. All right, I'll try to get it another way. It's not coming up. And I'll be mad because I spent time on it. Drive me nuts. Here we go. Let's see if that comes up. Can everybody see this or no?
No.
No,
No.
I think you have to share your screen first.
Yeah. Oh, man. I put it into Zoom, so let's see if it comes out. All right, now let me try sharing it, see if it's in there. Where'd it go? Okay, can everybody see it?
Yep.
I can see it.
Yep.
Yep, good. Okay. Whew. Boy, that didn't want to cooperate. All right, so let's go to the very front page. Okay, so now we're going to start our budget. And this is just on an Excel sheet. It doesn't have to be that way. I like it that way because I can adjust it, and we'll talk about that later. So let's say at the end of the day, and I'm going to try to minimize this so I can. Okay, so can everybody
Brady, can
still
you
hear me?
share this with us?
Huh?
Yeah. Can you email this to us maybe as
Yeah,
a
I will.
template?
Do you want it now or when we're finished?
No, when we're finished is fine.
Yeah,
Thank
okay,
you.
you're definitely going to send it. Yeah, it's part of the class. Okay, so at the end of the day, Mr. Joe Realtor came up with the fact that they were going to do 11 sides. And does everybody see that? So if you look at, no, I can get out of this because I can see it better. So at the end of the day, they were going to do 11 sides. And so let's say you're brand new, okay? So if you noticed, I put here a rate of 11,000 per, right? If this was your second year, you know what your commission was paid out at. In other words, I earned 2.5% on every house that I sold, right? If you don't know that, what would be a way that you could do that? Anybody?
Look at the average sales price for your target area and then use like an average commission.
Yep. You could ask around and say, hey, could somebody tell me what the, you could ask just like, hey, can you tell me, is it 3%, 2.5, 2.75? And if somebody says it's 2.5, then you take the average price that Melissa just said and you times it by 2.5, and that's going to be yours for the year. Now that could go up and down. You could do one at 2, you could do one at 3, but for a baseline, we're going to use the 2.5. So let's say it's $11,000, right? So then I have it set up that for every one that you see, both a listing or a buyer, I'm going to make $11,000. That's my commission. It's also called my revenue, right? So if I'm doing a budget, what's your revenue? My revenue is my commissions, right? So at the end of the day, my revenue is going to be what? $121,000. So my plan that I sat down and figured out that it took some time on, and I'm telling you right now, if you don't spend a week on your plan, you haven't spent enough time. You got to think about it, put it down, come back to it, think about it, put it down, come back to it, because you want it to be what? Realistic, right? So at the end of the day, 11 deals, $121,000 based on $11,000. Could it be up or down? You bet you. But I'm trying to do a realistic number. So if 2.5 was my minimum and I get a 3 out of it, I'm just making gravy money at the end of the day, right? So I'm now comfortable with the fact that I'm going to generate $121,000 in revenue. My commissions are going to be $121,000, right? That's gross, right? Now, what is that? How much money I really have? No. Is that sometimes what gets a realtor in trouble where they think they have $121,000? Yep. And they spend $121,000 and forgot about everything else they had to spend money on. So I always, oh God, that got off whack. I have to fix that. So I got, oh, this is off by 1. So I'll fix this, folks. I don't know what happened to it, but I will fix this. If you notice, they're all off by 1. Salary should be up 1. Iris should be up 1. Board should be up 1. Oh, how am I going to do? Let's see here. I'll fix it later. But at the end of the day, what I try to tell people is take a salary. If you know you're going to if your goal is to take $121,000, doesn't mean you have $121,000 to spend.
Hey, Harry.
What it means, yes, sir.
Jessica Rock is joining us. She should be coming in here soon, so keep an eye out.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'll have to, because I made it small so that I could show this better on my thing, but I will let her in. Thanks, Bruce. So what I tell people is, what if you were working at a job, what could you live with, right? And this one person I was working with said $5,000 a month. Okay, that's what we put in there. So that salary is $5,000 a month. That's their salary that they're going to get every month. Doesn't matter what goes in that commission up on top. right? You have a separate account. Now, if you don't have any money coming in, you got to wait. But at some point, you want to be able to pay yourself. If this was the second year into it and you had some, and we'll show you some reserves, you'd still be able to pay yourself that $5,000. You might have to backtrack and say, okay, I made 11,000 and it owes me X. You might not have anything for a month until you start getting going in this budget, right? Until you get your footing, as I call it. So at the end of the day, they're going to spend on salaries themselves $60,000. So if that 121.60 is already gone, they already said to themselves, 60,000 is for my salary, for my what I'm going to make, and $121,000 is my commission. All right. So now we want to go to, I call them fixed. By the way, all of this that I'm just, my salaries and the things we're going to talk about are called fixed. Anybody know what fixed expenses mean?
They don't change from month to month.
Yeah, they're fixed. They're going to happen no matter what. Now, your salaries usually are one that you don't have to put in the fixed category. You can put in the variable because you can change it and you might not get 1 month. But once you get established, I like to put it as a fixed expense. I'm going to spend this money because I need to make that kind of money. You're going to have IRAs. It's fixed. If you're going to stay in real estate, you're going to have IRAs. Board, right? If you're going to be in the real estate thing and with KW, you're going to pay the board. And in October, that's when it's due. So you put the money in October. If you noticed on the IRAs, I put it in the months in which we pay for it, right? So I know that in January, April, and October and the other month, I think it's June. But anyway, you're going to pay that $132. And at the end of the year, I paid $528 in IRAs. I can't change that, folks. If I want to be in real estate and I want to have an MLS, I got to pay $132. Fixed cost, can't change. Board, want to be in the board, $650, not going to change. Insurance, personal, right? So that could be listen, I need to have a plan for me as part of my salary. I need to have insurance, okay? I'm treating it like a business, okay? How much was it? It was $65. Okay, so we're going to put $65 in there because at the end of the day, if you're going to get a salary and you're going to have this insurance, that's what it's going to cost you. It's not going to change. Now you can decide. That's why I said some of these like salaries and insurance, personal, can change. You can say, I don't want it anymore. I'm going to roll the dice. Then you take it out of fixed. You could put it in variable later if you want, but for right now, this person wanted that in there, right? Then you have Eno Insurance. And I didn't put that, actually, I'm wrong. I want to go back. I forgot that I'm up one. Their insurance was $400 a month. I take that back. Their insurance was $400 a month. And they wanted to make sure they had the insurance. And so it was $4,800 a year. So we put it into the budget as a fixed expense. They had to have it. Had to have it. Then your office and was $65 a month. So we put that in there. That's a fixed cost. You're going to pay for that insurance. You have to have it. So the one above the 400 could be a variable. The one below the E&O and the office are fixed. You got to, if you're going to be with Keller Williams, that's what you're going to pay, right? So I now know at the end of the day, I'm going to spend $66,000 of my $121,000 on fixed expenses, right? Yeah, I'm going to let Jessica in right now. Okay, so everybody get that so far? So at the end of the day, if I want to pay myself, I want to have insurance, and I got the other board stuff, I'm going to spend $66,000 of my 121. Make sense? Okay, so the next thing was, okay, I got a cell phone. Got to have a cell phone. Okay, how much is your cell phone? $200. Okay. God, I got to fix this, driving me nuts. So at the end of the day, they're spending $2,400 on their phone. It's part of their business. And quite frankly, if they didn't have it, they couldn't do their business. It almost could be a fixed expense, but it's a variable expense because why? Anybody know? No guesses? Because you can adjust it. You don't need a variable is something you can change. You don't need a $200 plan. What if they came out with a $150 plan? It's going to do the exact same thing you need it to do. It's a variable expense. It can change. You're going to change it. Same with your marketing, right? Facebook. Now, here's where we go back, and on this, all their business, by the way, their 11 deals was all referrals. So they weren't spending any money, which isn't true. They are. And we're working through that. But for this exercise, they weren't spending any money. But let's say, Melissa, you were going to do Facebook and you were going to do it once a month. And you believe that the average cost for you to do that was $50. So what are you going to put in there? You're going to put in $50 a month. At the end of the day, you're going to have a total of $600. Why is that variable? You don't have to do it. You could have so much business from one that you decide, I can't do it next month. I got so many other leads that I need to take care of and do all these other things. I'm not going to spend that money. It's a variable expense. It can fluctuate. You can take it out. If it goes away, it's not going to kill your business. But if you didn't pay your MLS and it went away, it would kill your business. That makes sense? Okay. So then, mileage, same kind of thing. Mileage is a variable. Signs, variable, not fixed. You don't need, if you've got one or two or you want to borrow some, you don't need them. Office supplies, it's a variable. I mean, how much office supplies do you need, right? At the end of the day, you can adjust that. So I call those variable expenses. In marketing, anything in marketing is really a variable expense because you can tweak it, you can take it out, you can do whatever. You can survive without it. You can't survive without the board. You can't survive without Irish. You can't survive without the Eno. So at the end of the day, those things are fixed. You could survive without your salary, but you'd probably have to get out of real estate and do something else. That's why I always call it fixed. Okay. So at the end of the day, we've now spent a total of, on this particular one, $2,400 for variable expenses, right? So we had $66,000 in fixed expenses and $2,400 in variable expenses. And, if we would have put the $600 for marketing, it would have been $3,000. So anyway, but at the end of the day, the grand total for all of our expenses are $69,158, right? So we spent almost $70,000, or actually I go to the low end. We spent $69,000 to make 121. Did we do well? Anybody? Yep. Okay, now, so you're saying to yourself at the end of the day, can anybody see the net income statement? You got $51,000. Boy, you are living high. And guess what some realtors do when it's $51,842 sitting in their bank? Anybody want to guess?
Blow it.
They blow it. That's exactly right. But what did they forget?
Taxes.
Anybody? Taxes. Absolutely. So at the end of the day, I need to go down on the sheet, and I don't have it on this one yet because we're not finished with it. But anyway, taxes, right? Now I go look up, and in December, actually, you're going to pay them throughout the quarter, but for this exercise, I'm going to put it in the fourth quarter. So at the end of the day, am I taxing myself on $121,000 or am I taxing myself on $51,842? Anybody? Or am I taxing myself on $51,842, or am I putting back my salary? Your salary is going to be taxable. So at the end of the day, you're going to take your $60,000 and you're going to add it back. So at the end of the day, you had roughly 100 out of the 121. You're going to, for the sake of this, I don't have the exact number because I'm not doing it yet, but let's say it's $100,000. So you're going to get into the tax rate and find out what $100,000 is taxed at. And for this exercise, let's say that $100,000 is 24%. So we're going to pay $24,000 in taxes, right? So at the end of the day, 51 no longer is 51. 50, and so I got to put in the 24 here. I'll just auto text it for this, just for the sake of this. Now what do I have left, right? So I have $27,000. Now what can I spend? Anybody? Nobody? Come on, simple math. I got $27,000 I get to spend, right? So I'm going to spend $27,000. Am I really going to spend that kind of money? My suggestion to you would be not. And here's why. I would take that $27,000 and I'd say I need at least need January and February reserve of $5,000. So it's $10,000 for my salary because I want to keep making my money. And I need $800 for my insurance. So I want at least a 2-month reserve. So let's say that's 10,800, right? So that at the end of the day, I could say to myself, no, shoot, I'll just do it later. Anyway, I've got roughly $17,000. So at the end of the year, you can have a Christmas fund and say, I'm going to split that $17,000 in half. I'm going to put $8,000 into my account for Christmas, and I'm going to put $8,000 into an IRA or a Roth, whatever you want. I would do something with it so you can start earning money and have income for when you retire. So at the end of the day, you got an $8,000 bonus, you made $60,000, you paid for insurance, and you had a good year and you were able to pay all your taxes and do all those things, right? Okay, so that's sort of the budget we set up. So this is just the budget. This isn't reality, right? This is the budget that we set up. So that at the end of the day, we're pretty jazzed. If things work out, I'm going to have $27,000 at the end of the year. That's going to help me into the next year. And I'm going to be able to put money for Christmas, and I'm going to be able to do an IRA. Okay. So now we're done with our budget. We're ready to go into the year. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay. All right. So now let's say, folks, January happens. And what are we going to do? First thing, I want you to make a copy of, right? I want you to have 2 copies. One that you're going to use as your year to adjust, and one that you can always look back to say, what did I say I was going to do and what happened, right? Because what we're going to create is, so January rolls around and guess what? We didn't make $11,000, but we had reserves in there. So we're going to make it 0 just for the sake of this, right? And something. So all my numbers are off, but this would be minus $5,797, right? So, we went in the hole. So my number here, when I redo all these numbers, and I haven't done them yet, is going to change this 27 down by $5,700. So this 27 becomes 22. This document, I'm going to save and put January on it, and I'm going to call it a pro forma. Anybody know what a pro forma is? Actual plus budget equals your budget for the year or your annual. And so a pro forma is, for this one, would be 11 plus 1. 11 months budget, 1 month actual equals X. So 11 plus 1 pro forma equals this. We do it in February and we put in these numbers. And let's say February, we get back that one, right? So guess what? We're back up to our 27. And all this will be, when I give it to you, we'll adjust right so you can see what your bottom line is. But now guess what? February was 16,000. So we made up, right? So now my pro forma is 10 plus 2. And this is how it looks at the end of the day. At the end of the day, I'm back to my 27. And if I want to go back and compare it to my budget, I could have it down below and just look at it to see how I'm doing to my original budget. That's just a hairy thing, but I like it because this is what I said I was going to do. Am I doing what I said I was going to do? So March comes along and March is perfect. We do everything we wanted to do in March. What would be the next step? So now we've got a 9 plus 3 and we're pretty happy. What would you do? Anybody? Melissa? I probably wouldn't do anything. And the reason I wouldn't is I'm on track. But if I would have done another 0, let's say in March, this would have been another 0 month. I might want to readjust the rest of the year, right? I might want to change this pro forma because it's no longer my budget. My original budget down below is no longer realistic. I'm not going to hit it. Part of this that you do this for is to relieve stress, right? Am I doing okay? Do I need to adjust? And if I adjust, am I going to be okay with that, right? Because at the end of the day, you could say, I didn't make the money I needed to make, so I'm not going to take $5,000. I'm going to take $4,000. You can move that pro forma for you to adjust, right? And this allows you to do that. So every quarter, you're going to sit back, you're going to look at it. What did you do right? What did you do wrong? And you're going to readjust your budget, which means you're readjusting your plan, right? I'm not going to be able to do 11 sides. I'm going to do 8 sides. Okay, so we're going to recalculate the rest of the year for those 8 sides, right? So it's going to give you the dollars that you need and have. And so you look at it and you go, wow, this number 27 now is -5. Well, I can't be -5. So what could you adjust in here through the rest of the year that will adjust that that number to be back to 0 at the time? And you could say, okay, I'm only going to take $4,000. So you could go into your salary and put $4,000. And at the end of the day, you're back to 0. You're okay with it. Not the 27 you had, but at least you're not losing any money, right? Got to be realistic. So this allows you to do an adjustment as you're moving forward. Keep your original budget because it's something you might want to look back to and say, okay, what could I do differently? Because it's going to help you when you get ready to do the next year. Okay. So now we have, so now we go into April and we put in the numbers. In April, voila, we did $22,000 again, even though we've adjusted everything, and I'm back on target. I'm happy guy. This becomes an 8 plus 4, right? So I have 4 months of actual, 8 months of budget. Let's call it pro forma. This is for you. It's for your business. If somebody says to you, well, how you doing? Well, my performance says I'm doing X. How is that to the budget, the original budget? Well, it's not good. Or it's great. I'm ahead of myself. And by the way, if you're way ahead of yourself, do your pro forma to be way ahead of yourself because you want to know at the end of the day how much money you're going to make. Because that's going to dictate at the end of the year your taxes. It's going to dictate what money you can put into an IRA. It's going to dictate your retirement. It's going to dictate your bonus that you're giving yourself, all those things. And so being realistic allows you to plan for that, right? So then we go into May, we do the same thing, pro forma. It becomes a 7 plus 5. We do June, becomes a 6 plus 6. July becomes a 7 plus 5. A 5 plus 7. 5 months budget, 7 months actual. And you keep going all the way through until you get to September. And in September, you're going to readjust for the rest of the year. You're not going to change it anymore after that. Once you finish your October adjustment, that's it. But what does that do for you? So there's 2 types of budgets. There's a zero-based budget and there's a year-over-year budget. And year-over-year is what a lot of, I don't care what anybody tells you, most companies will say, hey, look, you can have 3% more than you had last year, or you need to cut 5% from last year's numbers, right? So they're really using they're using a year-over-year budget process system. Your first one will be zero-based. You're starting from 0. Your next year doesn't have to be 0 if you don't want it to be. You can say, okay, let me look at how I did. And remember, we adjusted, and you're now at 9 months actual, 3 months budget, right? So you are 3993. So you get to look at that and say, well, I have 9 months of actual information. So when I start planning next year, I got some pretty good numbers to work with. And so I guess what I'm going to start? I'm going to start all over again. I'm going to have a budget season planning meeting. I'm going to sit back and I'm going to look at my numbers, and my numbers are going to be what drives me, right? So I did 11 sales so far this year. Where did I get them? Now you're going to do a business plan that says, where did I get my 11 sides? How much money did I make on them? Because by the way, you're adjusting these. If this, going back, if this commission was $23,000, you're going to put $23,000 in there because you got a 2.6, not a 2.5. Does that make sense for everybody? You want these to be actual numbers, because then next year you can say, wow, I'm hitting 2.7. So when I budget next year, I'm going to put 2.7 because that's what I'm doing. I have history to show me personally, that I'm hitting 2.7. I have history to show me that I did 11 sites. I got 3 from open houses. I got 4 from referrals. I got 5 from events, and I'm good to go. So that when I build next year, I have a foundation, right? And that foundation is, I know that I can get 11. I know if I do some of the same things, I'm going to get that 5, that 6, that 4, and that 2. Now you can say to yourself, I want to do more. Now you're sitting down in your budget going, okay, I know I'm going to do those. Can I improve those, or do I want to add another lead generation source, something else? And guess what? I love to cold call. So I might add cold calling for the year and put 2 or 3 in there. Now, instead of doing 11, I'm doing 14. So next year's number is going to show 14. And I'm going to be able to show you how I got there. And I'm going to be able to show you how much commission I made and what my rate was, so that when I build that next year's budget, it's pretty realistic going into the year, because I have history to show it, right? So after the first year, you have history. And guess what? If you did 5 this year, I had somebody up by Parker. Anyway, they wanted to go from 6 to 22. And I'm like, okay, not going to happen. I'm not trying to be negative. I want you to be realistic. Let's talk about a number we really think. So when we looked at her plan, she had stuff that she'd never done before. And yet she had these outrageous numbers. I said, so what happens when you don't hit those? Well, okay. So what we did was we rolled it back, and we rolled it back to 13, which is twice more than she had done the year before, right? And my whole thing to her was, we can do a stretch goal. We'll do the 13 and we'll add 2 more somewhere. But we're going to live on the 13, and the 2 are going to be stretch goal that you want to hit. And if you hit them, you who have a party, right? But at the end of the day, I want it to be realistic. Because if it's not realistic, you'll give up, right? If you start doing this and you're not making the changes and you're not doing this, pretty soon you're going to go to yourself, forget it, right? Which is a defeated attitude, because you're looking at all this and it's not working because you weren't realistic to begin with. Budgets are to be realistic. Yeah, it doesn't mean to be soft on yourself. It means to be realistic. If you want to push yourself next year, and that's part of your plan, then, and you did 10 this year, then pushing it might be 14 or 12. It's still better than the year before, right? And you can calculate it from there, and you can adjust throughout the year. So my big takeaway on budgets is you got to be realistic. You got to be able to adjust it so that you can plan and adjust your plan so that you can move forward and be successful. If you get behind, that's okay. Let's readjust so that we can have something that we can achieve and then make. But again, it gets back to your original plan. What is it that you want to do? And once you believe it or not, once you have all this and you have the months in which you got it and what you did to get it, when you start building your plan for the next year, because this will help you plan for next year. It's ironic how that works, but doing this budget, having your numbers will help you plan your business marketing for next year. Because you say, wow, okay, I got 10. And guess where I got them? I got them from this, and this. These were how I got, this lead generation is how I got my business. And if you're a completely referral business, then you got 14 from referrals. Could you get 16 next year out of referrals? And if you don't think you can, what could you do? One more extra thing to get some more. In other words, more business, right? But at the end of the day, this allows you to then sit back and say to yourself, okay, here's how my year looked. And I also tell people, look at your adjusted pro forma budget compared to the original budgets, just so you can see where did I fall short? And if I do some extra things the next year, could I get some of that back, right? Again, this gets back to building that plan for the next year, your marketing plan for the next year. A lot of people say your marketing plan is just those things you're going to use. Your business plan, which includes your marketing plan, is all about how that next year is going to look for you in your real estate business. Does that make sense? Okay. So just to reiterate, so we're going to, you go back, you're going to build your sides, you're going to build your commission. If you don't know what that is, then find out what your market center's average is. And you can get that from your MCA. That can tell you, well, our average for this market center was 2.6. That might be a number you want to use. You found out from 8 other agents that they did 7 or 8 deals. Okay, if they could do 7 or 8, and I'm going to do some of these things, and they did these things, I'm going to do 7 or 8. But once you have this past your first year, life is good because it allows you to look at what you did and where you fell short or where you succeeded quite well, and then plan for the next year. And guess what? I worked with a team that didn't have any, we worked on a budget for them, and they're happy as larks because they know they're getting $5,000 a month, and they know they have a reserve for the next year of 2 months, so that they can, not have to panic if something didn't come through that they thought was going to come through in December or November or December. And quite frankly, if they didn't want to put any money into an IRA at the time, and they wanted to keep it in there just in case, they could wait another whole year before they start doing the IRA. They don't have to do it the first year. They can have a reserve in their account in case they had, somebody got sick. And so instead of having 2 months of money for their salary, they had 3, right? And that's the decision they made. And this year, by the way, they did an IRA. And they got a Christmas bonus. They were pretty jazzed because they had this whole system set up so there was no stress about money. I mean, there's nothing worse than overspending, right? And the way not to overspend is to constantly readjust. You might say to yourself, wow, marketing, my Facebook ads are going well, right? I'm going to do them every other week now instead of every month. So when you do your pro forma and you're into April and you want to adjust, put the money in there for it. Because it's going to tell you how your end is going to look. It's going to tell you how you're spending your money. Because every month you're going to look at that and go, okay, I got to spend money on marketing this month because that's what I said I was going to do. And how am I going to do it? Oh, I got to get a listing this month. So what lead generation did I say I was going to do? And if I need to tweak that, I want to tweak it. So it allows you to sort of have this sort of plan, and then it has money tied to that plan so that you can stick to that targeted that you want to do. Hey, you might say at the end of the day, I can't believe I'm spending $200 for this cell phone. That's just a waste. I'm going to go spend a couple of hours and see if I can't find a better plan. I mean, there's a million things you can do once you lay these things out and you've got it on a piece of paper and you can see it. So first year, zero-based budgeting. Second year, I say do year over year, right? So how did I do last year and what can I do this year? I'm going to use my year 2020 as my foundation to build my 2021. Some things might change, dues might go up, some little things could change, but you'll be able to tweak it. But again, you get to tweak this every quarter, right? So it allows you to sit back every quarter and say to yourself, how did I do? And what do I need to do to change it? Or what do I need to do to stay on target, right? Let's say you're on target and you're saying to yourself, man, I'm burned out. Can you stay on target? What can you do differently to stay on target? Make sense? Okay, so you got this budget and the marketing plan. We're going to do that on another session. We're going to say, okay, so we had this budget. How do we build this marketing plan? We're going to do that on another week. I don't care if we do it next week or the week after, but I have a form that you can use that helps you build that plan. And you build that plan based on numbers that we've created. Now, I'm doing this the reverse because I already did the plan with this person, but I'll show you, we'll do the plan and then you'll see how we got this budget, right? So we're going to do this plan that's going to tie into this budget for you. But at the end of the day, if we already had the plan, we know we said we were going to do 11, right? We were going to do 6 listings and 5 buyers. And if that's not realistic for you, what is realistic for you? Maybe for this person, this was realistic, very realistic, by the way. And then this was their commission. And guess what? At the end of the day, if your commission's higher, that's just more money that goes to the bottom line. And you can do 2 things with it. You can put it part of your 3 things. You can put it in reserve. You can take it out on Christmas bonus, or you can put it in an IRA. And guess what? If you're having a banger first quarter and you've already got your reserves and everything else, you can take a mid-year bonus of X amount of dollars for a nice vacation. By the way, this group that I worked with, they did that. They actually took one in July and one in December. So that they could have their vacation paid for and then they could have a nice Christmas. But at the end of the day, they felt good about that because they knew where they were going and they had reserves and everything else. This allows you to do that. And it allows you to adjust your plan. Because at the end of the day, when I said you're going to adjust this budget, it means you're adjusting your plan, right? At the end of the day, you're adjusting what marketing you're doing to hit these numbers or to lower these numbers. Let's say you, I hate to say it, I'm not going to say it. I was going to say, let's say you broke your leg. I was going to say COVID, but that's a jinx. So let's say you broke your leg and you couldn't go do anything for a month and a half. All this is going to change some of that. And you're going to have to go back to your plan and figure out what you can do. And if you know you're going to be out longer, what could you do with a broken leg that can still allow you to do lead generation differently than what this is? And maybe you can't get out. Sorry, you can't leave the house. You can't do this. You could lead generate and then work with another agent and at least get some split. I mean, there's a million things you can do, but this allows you to adjust your marketing plan, which then adjusts your budget. They're hand in hand. One helps the other. And then one sort of is your report card about how your plan is working. Because really your budget's based on what your plan said you were going to do. And so if you're looking at your budget and it's not there, your plan isn't working, right? So you're going to adjust your plan to make this work. Or you're going to adjust your plan to lower this. You're going to do something, or you're saying to yourself, yep, the way I'm going right now is how it's going to work. You go back and adjust your plan to how it's going right now, which then is going to tie into how you change this. But it's going to tell you how you are at the end of the year instead of being in there are agents that I have met that have to go in and say, hey, look, I need you to move my cap because I didn't pay my taxes. Okay, that's not good business. It's going to catch up to you. Why do you think a lot of businesses fail? Because they don't do this well. They don't plan and budget well. I tried to work with a company. I was on their board and I just couldn't get them to understand. Just couldn't get them to understand. They kept losing money and they didn't know why. Dumb. So here we go. Any questions? Ask them now.
Harry, I don't know if this is a topic for this conversation or if this would be like a financial advisor, but how do you know what you can deduct or use as a business expense? So you have insurance on here, for example, and then phone, but things like, you know, if you, I don't know, get your car washed regularly for, you know, for business appearance or things like that, that aren't maybe as clear cut. How do you know what you can actually use?
Great question. Everything on this particular thing you can. I have an accountant, and so I run things by him every so often. Every quarter I run things that I want to know. There are classes, and I think Fort Collins had one last year. There are classes that the boards put on that helps with that. And so look for your board and find out which ones they have, because they'll have somebody come in and tell you what you can write off.
Okay.
I can tell you right now, people who have a fitness program write it off as part of their health and whatever.
Ooh, okay.
Rich Kukura over at Fort Collins writes off everything he can think of. And I keep all my receipts, which, by the way, I don't care what it is. If you take somebody out for coffee, keep the receipt because it's a business expense. Anything that's a business expense, keep those receipts. At the end of the year, you can work with your accountant or whoever you're using to figure out those things that you can use for your deductions. The things that were on this list that I put here for this particular exercise are all tax deductible as part of your business.
Okay.
But great question. And if I find the class or if I see it pop up, I will send it to you all.
Thank you.
I just use my, some of the stuff I just remember from my business world, but it's a great question. Because at the end of the day, the more you can write off, the better you are. You want to try to keep your tax rate as low as you can.
Harry?
Yes.
Yeah, I lost my sound when you started talking about pro forma. So would you give me the definition of the pro forma?
So pro forma is actual plus budget, right? So if your first month was January and you had the actual numbers, it'd be 11 plus 1, 11 months of budget and 1 month of actual.
Okay,
They call that a pro forma.
I see.
Here's where I'm at based on actual numbers and budget. And at the end of the year, if I was to continue with what I just did and the budget, this is how it would look. And that changes every single month.
Okay. Thank
Now,
you.
if you were great and every month hit the exact same numbers, it'd be a wonderful thing, but that's not how reality is. I'll give you an example. I thought I paid my board dues and I didn't, so my 650 became 710 last year. So I would have had to adjust last year to 710, but then next year probably put back to 650. You want to make sure you put actual numbers in there. And if Office and E&O went down $60, then you adjust the rest of the year for $60. You put $60 in actual, then when you readjust it for the year, you'd put $60 in there. You wouldn't leave it at 65 if you knew it was going down to 60 when you're readjusting for the year.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Your phone drops to 180, you'd want to change that once you get past your April number, your March number, and you pro forma the rest, and you're going to readjust for the rest. Every quarter you want to adjust so that you can stay somewhat on target, because you want to know what this bottom line is. That's the whole key, is what's this looking like, right? And this might get adjusted. That's the other thing, is this number will be a formula that's based on what your commission dollars are, right? Net. So it would say to you, okay, so this 24 could become, if you haven't done as well as you thought you were going to do, this 24 could become 20, right? Because it's based on your net income.
Super.
Okay. All right. So this, and I sort of just wanted to show you what a budget looks like. And maybe next week or the week after, I'll check with Bruce. We'll do the market plan idea of how do you get all those numbers so that you can then build this worksheet. So, and I have that as well. And that's a KW plan that I went to and took the course. And so it teaches you how to look at your year, especially if you have a year in your belt, and say, okay, this is where I got all my money. This is where I got all my sides. This is where I did all my leads. And then we build the next year, and then we build this particular spreadsheet. That makes sense? Because then you just follow your plan and your budget should be okay. And it gives you instead of having to look at your plan every month, you can look at your budget and know where you fell short, right? If you look at listings and you have 0 listings and 10 buyers, you're supposed to have 5 and 6 and 5, you know, you've got your plan got a little skewy, and what are you going to do with it? Are you going to try to go get the listings, or are you going to then focus on buyers, right? You get to make that decision. It's your business. Hey, I'm really good at buyers. I'm going to stick with the buyers. Okay, then we're going to readjust. And when we build next year, we're going to build it based on buyers. And maybe just put 1 or 2 listings as the bonus money that you want to make. But it gives us those options. And that's the whole key. So looking at this gives you, and it also tells you where you fell short. If somebody was to hand me a budget like this, I'd know where they fell short. If I had their original budget, I could just look at it and go, okay, well, so what happened? Right? But again, it's like I told Lucas, don't set up a budget or your plan on what you think Bruce or I might want to hear. Base it on what you think you can do for your business. This is about you. This is about your business. Now, Bruce and I might say to you, wow, Melissa, you did 10 last year and next year you're going to do 8. What's the deal? Well, maybe you're going to Europe for 3 months. Okay. But if you're not, and you're just being soft on yourself so that you can look good on numbers, that ain't cutting it. Right? I can tell you that right just at looking at stuff. You know, so in my world, see that number right there that I'm just pointing to? That was the first thing I looked at in any budget somebody gave me. I could tell if it was realistic or not, especially if I had the year before. I go, seriously? Really? I don't think so. Why don't you spend another day and then come back? But if it was right on, I go, wow, okay, I think we can do this. Let's look at it. Let's see what you did. Let's get your plan out, that kind of stuff. And so if I can do that, you can do that for yourself. And that's what budgets are all about. The planning and the budget is to help you with your business throughout the year. Knowing, because it's your business, that you can adjust it, right? Things do come up. Things do get crazy. You could have let me back up for a second. Let's say you got super, super lucky and there was 4 deals that fell into your hand because somebody got hurt and they needed your help, but you weren't going to have them next year. That's something you can tag onto your plan for the next year to say, it wasn't realistic for me to get these 4. So instead of getting the 16, I'm going to get 12. And here's why. That's realistic. If you don't think you're going to get those 4 because it was an anomaly. I'll give you a classic example of this. A war breaks out. This is newspaper world. War breaks out, and we're going to sell an extra 150,000 papers. the University of Texas wins the national football championship, and we're going to sell an extra 200,000 papers. We're not going to sell those next year. It's not realistic. So we would take that out of the budget, knowing that it was an anomaly, right? That it was just a one-time only hit. And so when we compare that, we then know that we had this sort of fluke, right? And so your business world could have some of those flukes in them, and you'll need to adjust for those. But guess what? This allows you to do that. When you're looking at this, you go, yeah, that's not going to happen because here's why. And you have control of over your business. You have control over your marketing plan. You have control over your budget. That's what it's all about. And what it also does is you said to yourself, and Melissa, you and I have talked about this. So you say to yourself, you got this marketing, you see this big blip that you spent $2,000 in June, right? And you look, you think about it, you go, oh yes, I did that great magazine promotion at $2,000. And then you go up and look and you go, whoa, I didn't get anything for it. I didn't make a dollar off that. I would hope you wouldn't have that in next year's budget. But if you still wanted to spend $2,000 because you had it built that way, you had money to spend for that, think of another plan. So in your next year's plan, you got $2,000 to think of something else, and it sure isn't going to be that magazine because your return on your investment was zero. Not a good investment. I just worked with a seasoned agent the other day, and we were working, and she's like, it's going to cost me $3,000 and I'm going to get this out of it. And at the end of it, when we were finished, she wasn't getting anything out of it. We weren't going to do it because we talked through it. Not going to happen. Not going to get it. It was all pie in the sky. And guess who she listened to? She listened to the sales rep that was trying to sell her the $3,000. She hadn't done her homework. So when we made some phone calls and things, we found out, that's a waste of $3,000, right? But all I'm saying is this allows you to look at those things and make adjustments to them. It allows you to say that work, that didn't work. I can show it by up on top where my commissions are. So it gives you these sort of checks and balances to yourself, right? Because you, at the end of the day, you can go, yeah, had a great year. Yeah, I spent that $2,000. I'm going to spend it again next year on the same thing. But in reality, that thing had no return on its investment. This stuff allows you to do that, and it allows you to tweak your plan. So we do the plan. We'll do that in the next couple of weeks. Then we build the budget from that plan, and then we have something to look at. And these numbers, I can tell you, I might not look at somebody's plan, but if I looked at these numbers that were actual, I could probably ask them questions that would lead me right to what I think they did and what their plan was. Okay. All right. I've probably spent enough time on numbers. I will send this out once I fix what I did wrong. And it'll have formulas. So if you, I'm going to send you a blank one. It'll have zeros in there. So you can put your own numbers in there. And guess what? When you do it, make sure you had your plan first. But if you do these, pick a time. I'll go over it with you. Anybody on any call? You want your budget to be looked at by me. Listen, I did every in Austin, Texas, anybody that was a United Way participant who had a business, I did their budgets. I looked at their budgets and I would tweak it with them. So budgets are my thing. I know them well. Helps me understand what people are doing, and I can help you in your business. So feel free to reach out once you get it finished, and we'll go over it. We'll spend a couple hours and go over it. And we might tweak it for you. But the whole point is, I want it to be realistic so that you can make it and you feel good about it. That makes sense? All right. I don't have anything else. A little short. I guess it didn't take as long as I thought. Probably I talk fast. So any questions? Nope. All right. All right. I think I can. Okay. I'm going to end it. Nobody has any questions. We're going to end it for the day. And I will send this out.
Thank you.
Thanks, Harry.
Thanks, Harry.
Hey, Bruce, you there?